Greetings, fellow citizens of Eren Keep. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to Bladesong. Episode 5, Orchestrating a Family Reunion. We only have the scrap vendor pet to talk to, because we can now exit. We have a rite of passage, so we can go out. And I'm going to buy the Soul Essentials book. And I'll buy the Saddle Brown Pigment. And say goodbye to him. And then end the day. We're going to head over to the Citadel Square to seek out Lucas, Shev's uncle, to tell him that Shev is in the camp outside. All the city's streets eventually wind their way here, a grand plaza called Citadel Square. Market stalls trace a colorful maze around its perimeter. Above it all, the Citadel looms. Built into the bones of the mountain itself, the Citadel's imposing gate is carved into sheer rock. Access is limited only to those of noble blood and their guests. Look around. Wagons fresh from the wastes unloading their goods. A traveler in dusty leathers sits on a barrow, regaling children with tales of the world outside. Put up a poster. You locate the public notice board near the market stalls and pin your poster among the various announcements and advertisements. A few passers-by glance over with mild interest. Search the marketplace for useful contracts. You walk beneath the awnings, keeping an eye out for anyone selling steel. Unfortunately, nothing notable catches your eye, but this seems to be a promising spot to find a more reliable source of iron than the scrap peddler. Meet with Lucas at the Fallen Doe. Lucas sits outside the Fallen Doe, deep in conversation with richly dressed men in silk brocade. When he sees you approach, he waves them away. How can I help you, my friend? Tell him about Shev. Lucas listens to your tale with growing interest. When you tell him his niece is outside the city walls, he sits back in shock and reaches for his drink. By the burning dead, Shavana. I haven't seen her since she was knee-high. I thought my brother and his family perished in the sundering. To find out my niece is alive, not only alive, but just outside the walls. Why, it's a joyous occasion. Drink with me, my friend. He calls over the waiter. What's your poison? The Ashen Star Ale is excellent, but the mead is rather good too. I need to keep a clear head. Of course. Lucas drains the last foam from his cup and signals the waiter to bring him another. As he sets down the glass, though, the joy is already fading from his face. Poor Shavana. She must have endured great hardships to cross the wastes. Getting her through the gate will be no small feat. Did she mention any skills? Botany? Crafting? Can she handle a sword? Not that I recall. In that case, getting her in is going to be almost impossible. Every day, the marshal grows more reluctant to issue permits. The city is already overcrowded, undersupplied. I should go and visit her, make sure she's all right. Do you mind accompanying me? I'd appreciate the support of someone familiar with the camp. Of course I can accompany you. Or, actually, rather, just promise to wear something inconspicuous. Your clothes will mark you as an outsider. Of course, give me a day to make the necessary arrangements. Ask for help regarding Caswin's predicament at the tannery. As you explain Caswin's situation, Lucas raises his glass and lips and takes a thoughtful sip. The tannery owner, Perdash, is a pig. He has a reputation for hucking up interest and extending indentures as well as beyond the original terms. I do have some influence with him, however. A matter from years back that left him in debt. I'll visit him tomorrow and see what I can do. You'll help me, just like that? If you help me out here, perhaps you'll get me, Shavana, into the city, Why is the tanner in your debt? I helped his daughter, a bright and honest young woman, as different from her father as night from day. I'll leave it at that. It's not my story to tell. Thank you, Lucas. I won't forget this. Consider it payback for telling me about my niece. See how society works? A chain of debts and obligations and favors, looping back to one single act of kindness? It's beautiful. Where can I find steel for my forge? There's an ironmonger by the name of Quell, who used to supply your predecessor with all his steel. She's got a stall over there somewhere. He points vaguely in the direction of the market. Do you know anyone who can supply me with wood? Aye, I know a reliable carpenter. His name is Oscar. Last I heard, he's over by the Steady Stay, helping them out after some drunken crow smashed up the place. You know what happened to Thassin Felber? Not much. He was here one day, gone the next. I try to see the good in everyone, but sometimes it requires a magnifying glass. Thassin was one such case. He was rude, ill-tempered, though by all accounts an honest businessman. His wife, Alice, was a kind soul, but sadly under the thumb of her brute of a husband. She worked as his assistant in the forge. She went missing around the same time as he did. What exactly do you do, Lucas? Can you not tell? I'm a layabout, a lazy good-for-nothing. I talk until my throat is hoarse. I drink to soothe my pain. Then the drink sets my tongue wagging, and the cycle begins anew. There's more to it than that. He chuckles. I suppose the real question is, how did I build my fortune? Well, I know almost everyone, and almost everyone knows me. I can be trusted to keep a secret, or fairly resolve a dispute. I used to be a merchant, but strangely enough, I make a better living trading connections than I ever did trading silks. Say goodbye. A pleasure. Leave Shev's plight with me for the moment. There must be someone who owes me a favor. I'm going to search the marketplace for useful contracts again. Soon enough, you strike up a conversation with a friendly ironmonger at a stall selling pots and pans. Her arms are covered in burn scars from some prior accident at the furnace. I heard someone had moved into Thassin Felber's old forge. How's the keep treating you? I can finally sleep without keeping one eye open. Even inside the walls, you should keep on your toes, or at least you might vanish like Thassin did. What happened to Felber? The ironmonger lowers her voice. Rumor is, he got sent to the far mines for murdering his wife. Would explain why she went missing alongside him, but no one's sure. Wouldn't surprise me if that were true. Old Thassin had a temper. His black moods would end up in black eyes for the poor woman. Can I buy steel from you going forward? Well, of course, that's my trade. I did the same for Thassin when he was around. I can already tell you'll be more pleasant to deal with. The sun has slipped below the horizon. Curfew draws near. The city watch swings their bells and shout at citizens to make their way home. The evening air grows chill. The warmth of home beckons. Down steep the winding streets you go, leaving the bustle of the Citadel Square behind. All right. So we have got 2 wooden things to break down. We don't have a lot of steel. You want something mobile and short. You want something really short. My god, that's like a dagger. You want something fancy of gold wood. And you want something long, but I don't even have enough steel to start. And it also needs to be a straight blade, which doesn't really work with what I want to make next. This just needs to be mobile. So I think I'm going to take this contract. Yeah, I'll take this one. And this is going to be Board Drake's blade. So I'm going to make it as long as possible so I have more room to work with. Alright. Make it nice and thin for mobility, because mobility is the really only concern here. Let's give it our cross section. I'm only going to have the blade part. Actually, I'm going to do the cross section later. first I'm going to do curvature. So this won't look quite right for what you had requested, but I'll get as close as I can for a Kopesh. Because you can't really, I don't have the means to do like sharp edges just yet. Let's do a 500 here. 500 curvature, and then put in another curvature here to do like the inverse 500. And it's worth noting at this point, you can also show hammer timing. So if you're doing a lot of heavy hammering, you can show the timing, which is now in the center middle of the screen, to see exactly when the ideal hit strikes are to get maximum bang for your buck, because every sequential hit is more effective than the last one if you keep hitting your ideal timings. So if you're trying to make a lot of big changes all at once. In fact, let's have this go up more, because it needs to be like a real curve. That one's good. And then curvature, one more curvature here. And I might change some of the dimensions here. Actually, a Kopesh kind of has like a arc curve at the end, so let's get rid of that. And this curve will go out further. And then this curve will go back. And I'll have to adjust it over time. Yeah, so this one's too big. Or maybe too wide, more like. Oops, that's not the direction I wanted. You can kind of see how the blades can be manipulated into almost any shape you want, given patience and time. Alright, we'll do another curve section right at the tip to make it like crank back towards... I can't even tell which way this is going. Oh yeah, it's going correctly. Okay. And then I'll change the taper as well. Now it needs a narrow point, which is going to not work all that well with the Kopesh, but, you know, it is what it is. A lot of hammering here. Nearly at 1,000 curvature. And I'm not necessarily going to go perfect, but something reasonably resembling, and I'll probably adjust some of the curves here. I'm just trying to get the general shape now, and then I can like adjust the positionings of that shape. Alright, now let's give it a point. And I'm going to give it... Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I want to give it a point just at the ends, but I'll probably end up with like a wider taper at the front. Oh, it needs to be more narrow. There we go. All right, then this curvature, I'm gonna reduce a little bit in size so the shape looks more right, and then this one I'm gonna increase that looks about right. It's closer, at least. Okay, edge. Let's give it an edge, and we're only going to give it an edge on its bottom side here. Actually, I don't want to give it an edge all the way back, just this part of the blade. And let's increase the edge a little bit. Okay, actually decrease that off a little bit. There we go. It's a pretty wild looking blade. Okay, one-handed. So hilt. Kopeshes have kind of like hilt, like sort of like this a bit. And it needs to be one-handed and leather material for the grip. So stick a grip on there. Make it saddle brown leather, structured leather, high polish, and then give it like I don't have a huge selection of pommels that work well for this, but maybe the Brazil nut shape is closest. Or actually, you know what? Maybe the elaborate shape works best. And because weight doesn't matter and balance doesn't matter, I can shrink that down. All right, let's give it a fair bit of polish. Here we go, and back to the subtle brown. Yeah, that was polished. And then let's stick an emblem on it, as well as our first engraving. Just a let's bring that engraving all the way out to the start of the blade, just for fun. There we go. It's a... yeah, that'll meet. So, board, rakes, blade. And yeah, I could work on it more to get it closer to a Kopesh looking thing. But yeah, it's pretty close, all things considered. You know, and obviously the more time you spend, the closer it can get. Oh, there. And he gave us heavy shackles for it. So I don't have enough, I can only do tunings at this point because I don't have enough action points. So let's go ahead and break down these shackles for steel. Bring our steel up to 22, and then break down the other wooden pieces for 13 wood. So we don't have a lot of steel, but we have a lot of coin. And I'm gonna end the day. We have 315 coin left over. And I'm gonna go to the... I'm gonna accompany Lucas to find Shev in the camp. That's the most, like, I would say time urgent thing to do, because she's kind of like dying out there. The beating heart of Eren Keep. The market stalls trace a colorful maze around its perimeter. Above it, the high citadel looms. Wagons unload their goods. Travelers regale children of tales of the outside world. And we are going to buy food at the market. Your ration token gets you a steaming bowl of oink soup. congealed pig's blood mixed with oats, and a single trotter floating in the middle. This sort of fare would have turned your stomach before the sundering. You are now well fed for a day. Meet with Lucas at the Fallen Doe. Lucas sits outside the Fallen Doe, deep in conversation with a richly dressed man. Thank you again for bringing word of my niece. Are you ready to head to the camp and talk to Shev? I'm ready. He has eschewed his usual finery for simple peasant clothes. You still look too clean. Perhaps I can smear some mud on my face once we're out past the outer gate. He stands from his table, knocking back the last of his drink, and gestures for you to follow. Outside the walls of Eren Keep, desperate souls gather in makeshift tents, pleading for entry. Now that you've gained residency in the city, visiting this place brings back an onslaught of painful memories. Lucas steps delicately through the churned mud and puddled sewage, staring about in pure horror. The applicants gaze resentfully back, their eyes hollow in skull-like faces. He may be dressed shabbily, but he's clearly an outsider. He has meat on his bones. I had no idea it was like this. Well, now you know. Yes, I suppose I do. The man falls silent. You pick your way between the ragged tents until you finally reach Shavana. She's crouched outside her tent, gnawing at a chicken bone. Get her attention. She glances up, then her mouth turns into a perfect O of shock when she sees Lucas. She rushes to him, enveloping him in a fierce hug. Shev, I can't believe it. You really are here. Uncle, you came. By the burning dead, you're skin and bone girl. Here, take this. Lucas has brought as much food as he could spare from his weekly rations. A loaf of dark bread, 3 withered apples, and a chunk of salted meat wrapped in cloth. Shev attacks it with gusto, tearing into the bread like a ravenous wolf. It's good to see the two of you reunited. You weren't lying, she's actually here. I can't believe my little niece traveled all this way and survived so many hardships. Thank you for letting me know where to find her. You're welcome, Lucas. I don't know how to thank you enough, Smith. I'll be forever grateful. Here, Uncle, sit down. We have so much to talk about. You sit with Shev and Lucas for a long time as the two of them catch up. They avoid discussing the stories of their survival since the sundering. Shev's harrowing journey across the wasteland, Lucas's comfortable rise within Eren Keep society. Instead, they stick to old family anecdotes, comforting and bittersweet. And you were so excited from the puppet show. You were sick right down my back. Your father laughed until he cried. Shev is laughing and crying too, wiping away tears as she relives the memory. Those were better days. I miss the world we used to have. Alas, so does everyone. I wish we could chat all day, but we're going to need to head back soon before it gets dark. Our next step, Shavana, is to get you safely into Eren Keep. Every day you're out here carries a risk. How do you propose we do that? When I'm back at Eren Keep, I'll call in all the favors I can. I know the Marshal has been clamping down hard on the permits recently, but perhaps I can pull off a miracle. Is there anything I can do to help? Shev, is there anything you need? Actually, yes. While my uncle's busy calling in favors, could you make me a sword? Something lightweight, small, but sharp. She shivers, her eyes scanning the dark shapes of the tents around her. I can't pay you, but I'd appreciate it. I'm starting to worry about the rusty bread knife under my pillow isn't enough. No problem, Shev. I can make you a sword. I'll pay you for your time, Smith. I insist on it, says Lucas. I also wouldn't object if you brought some food, Smith. Just once in a while. Food and pleasant company are both in scarce supply out here. It's getting dark. We have to go. Stay safe, Shavana. Shev smiles often, but her smiles are always tinged by bitterness or sorrow. Now she smiles genuinely, and it's like the sun bursting through the clouds. I will, Uncle. Thanks for everything. The two embrace, somewhat awkwardly, but then you accompany Lucas as he makes his way back to the city. The hollow stares of the other applicants follow you all the way to the outer gate. Alright, I think we have to go see Quell. Navigating, we get our way to the High Citadel and go see Quell. And right now it's all business. I'm going to buy the heavy shackles and buy 10 steel on top of that. We were basically out of steel. So, this is the blade for Shyvana. And because we're well fed, we can maybe craft 2 of these. So Lucas strolls into your shop, glancing around with curious eyes and a broad smile. He walks over to your rack of tools and weighs a hammer in his hands. By the dead, this thing is heavy. Or maybe it's just been too long since I've lifted anything heavier than an ale mug. Tidings, Lucas. Tidings, alas, this is not merely a social visit. I'm sure you know why I'm here. I need a blade for my Shyvana. Something to keep her safe in that horrendous camp. Sharp, concealable. It's no good for her if someone steals it. Can you start right away? Yes. Alright. The design of sword requests don't really match what I have to make here, so this is not going to be anything that anyone asked for. So here's real short. And it needs a little bit of weight, so I'm maybe going to add a little length to bring the weight up. And if we want concealable, it needs 1 Smith's Companion part on it, but the hilts of Smith's Companion are not like what I would consider concealable. So I'm going to go with like more dagger, less sword. Obviously it's like dagger length. Maybe not that hilt though. Let's see. Maybe this one? Alright, one-handed. And if we're talking concealment... Ooh, small octagon pair. Oh, work. That's very dagger-like. Alright, let's give her only 1 working edge. So we'll do a very slight taper for width towards the front. And then a very slight thickness taper as well. Although the weight is already getting too low. So I'll probably have to make it a little bit longer for weight. Alright. Then we'll add the narrow point. And I'll do the narrow point on both sides. And then add the actual sharpness of the blade. And we're going to do this only on one side. Here. And let's hope she doesn't have to use this very often, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it like a super convex blade that would slice up the first looky-loo. And then on the back edge, maybe something rounded. So on the other side, round this out a little bit. Oops. Turn the hammer around. Here we go. A very understated dagger, I would say. The other thing I want to do is to make it as little shiny as possible. Polish level all the way down. And then Yeah. Let's give it walnut brown. Too bad the sharpness went down when I made it that thin. Yes, I can undo some of that, though. I don't need to make it overly convex. Let's bring the sharpness up to like a 2. And then we'll still have to fix the weight. Because the weight, it's too light right now. So what I'll do is I'll... bring the length up. And there we go. Now it's meeting all requirements. So it's much longer. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to... Let's undo that. I'm going to make it wider instead. So it's a proper dagger. Just a wide dagger. Alright, let's get rid of the tapers. And see if that fixes weight. It doesn't quite. We'll change the width then? Or no, not that width. Change the thickness. There we go. Oh, I don't really like that. Alright, there we go. So it's a pretty simple tool for her to handle, I would say. But it meets all the requirements except for narrow point, which is easily fixable. There. Solid. Shiv. Oh, in making the point, I screwed up the weight a little bit, so we'll, there we go. Perfect. Once the blade is done, you send a messenger to fetch Lucas. He arrives at your forge within the hour. Let's see it, Smith. I hope it's a blade worthy of my niece. Show him the dagger. He holds it up to the light, rubbing his chin thoughtfully, twisting it this way and that. Then he smiles ruefully. To tell you the truth, I know nothing about blades. Nothing at all. But this one looks fine to me. I'll arrange your payment. Every penny well earned. Thank you, Lucas. You should take this blade to Shyvana at once. I'd do it, but I'm still busy trying to call in favors on her behalf. To tell you the truth, the camp discomforts me. Give her my love. Hopefully some cold steel will help her keep safe from the camp's dangers while we arrange her rescue. Alright, we've got 5 action points left. We could do Rileys or Masons. I have a few things to break down, so let's break down the shackles for 8 steel and then do Riley's blade. Mobility, sword essentials, narrow point, one-handed, medium blade length. So this can't be a bastard sword. This could be a katana though, with blue leather, silver, and engravings. No, that doesn't work on this one either. And Anduril doesn't work either. So I can only match the channel point requests if they match the requests here. And this one doesn't. Also, for like Anduril, for instance, I'm simply missing some talent points, so like I can't even consider that at the moment. So we're not doing any channel point redemptions for this one either. Now, with that said, you can add something like silver to it if you want, even if it doesn't call for it, but it just makes the weapon unnecessarily expensive, in my opinion. It's not something that I would ever really consider. So I'm going to make this one nice and simple. We'll give it just a simple edge, a narrow point, a very simple hilt and grip. Oh, you know what? Let's do the guard here. Let's the sword essentials, because it needs 2 pieces of sword essentials, so I might as well bang those out. Now, what you could do is you could, like, do something weird, like a double hilt. Like, you can get as creative as you want, but I'm not going to be doing anything that looks absurd. One-handed. And then this is sword essential. So you know what it could do? Let's the last piece make it put the emblem on it instead. So in order to fix that, we're going to change the cross section to not this section, so I can put on the emblem. So the emblem sits here, and that satisfies the... Oh, that's not a full sword essential. I see, I see. Then I'll put a... there, that'll work. I like it. It has its own little unique flair for what it is. And, it's not a rapier, but I'm going to call it one. Done. And maybe raise the polish level up a bit. Give it some nice shine. There. Now I can be a little bit more proud of it. Sweet. Okay, we are out of action points, but we did level up. So, what did we spend it on? I don't have a center. So if we do left, it's sword bending. So we can adjust the bend of the swords. And right, it allows for the fullering of the blades. For smoother, rounded fullerings in the middle of the blade. Have you guys decide that. End the day. I am going to bring the dagger for Shev. She's sitting outside her tent, pale and gaunt as ever. As you approach, she stifles a cough. Spotting your hesitation, she smiles sadly. I know what you're thinking. Has she got the malady that's spreading around camp? Truth is, I don't know. But surely I don't feel right. You better stand upwind just in case. Have you made me a sword yet? There's whispers in the camp about folk going missing at night. I'd feel better with a blade at my side. Here's your sword. May it serve you well. Smiling, she attempts a few experimental jabs in the air. Now, if anyone comes after me at night, I can give them something to think about. By the way, has Lucas found a way to get me into the city? I'm not sure. Well, maybe see if he's made any progress. It's torture being stuck out here, not knowing if the end is in sight. Offer her some food from the keep. You've brought some bread and cheese, not much, after all. Rationing is still enforced within city limits, but still a feast by the camp's standards. When you offer it to her, Shev falls upon it with savage determination. Only after it's gone, and she's picking the individual crumbs from her clothes, does she speak. Sorry if my tibble manners offend. You know what it's like to be out here. How's life in the camp? Oh, as you expect, wretched and hungry. Tell her about life in Eren Keep. She listens to your tales and mingled wistfulness and envy, drinking in your every word. Seeing your reaction reminds you of how lucky you are. You have found a place in the city. You are now inspired. Bid her goodbye. Find Sandrick Maunder. Some hideous illness is rippling through the camp. The moans of dying mingle with the sobs of the bereaved. Fly-blown corpses lie beside overstuffed graves. As you walk towards Sandrick's tent, you spot Chorlo limping through the mud. He looks at you with doleful eyes and hobbles away with his head downcast. Follow the dog. The dog leads you over to churn mud, through ragged tents, past hordes of coughing near skeletons whose eyes follow you with blazing jealousy. At last, Chorlo stops outside Sandrick's tent. He barks once, softly, and pads inside. Sandrick Maunder, the last son of the Maunder clan, is lying on his bedroll. The body looks like nothing more than rags draped over bones. He's not breathing. Cholo pads over and gently nudges his fallen master. Sandrik's body shifts slightly, then settles back into place. A few flies lift and start circling the tent. Examine the corpse. You don't know what got him first, starvation or disease, most likely a combination of the two. Sandrik Monder is dead, far too young. Cholo raises his head in a mournful howl. Comfort Cholo. You stroke flea-ridden flank, tracing your fingers over his jutting ribs. The dog leans into you, breathing heavily. Bury the boy. You dig one more grave besides the others. Sandrik is so light in your arms, he's hardly there at all. You lower him gently into the muddy hole you've dug. Cholo stands over the graveside, oddly silent and solemn. Rest in peace, Sandrik. Your shovel bites dirt. Spadefuls of earth shower the grave, covering Sandrik's pale face. Refilling the grave takes what energy you had left. You need to head home before you collapse where you stand. You are now exhausted. As you leave, you see Cholo stood over his young master's grave. Encourage him to follow you home. You feed him a strip of dried meat and pet his flank, but he's fixed in place, eyes downcast. The sun sinks low in the sky. No amount of pulling or calling will stir him. The dog won't abandon his dead master, no matter what. Finally, you're forced to give up. It's a long, lonely walk back to the forge. Thank you for tuning in to Bladesong, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you on next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow blacksmiths.